once the play is going south and tanking, you gotta be on your toes and calling a timeout to stop it.
But what about the play being the same play?
Not great.
Okay,
no, it's not great. And as you said, it's a completely different situation because there's different defenders on the floor. And so, yeah, I don't like running the same play. I mean, I get it. I mean, if they can't stop it, you run that again. Tatum did it so easily the first time.
But Mitchell Robinson, as much as we crap on Mitchell Robinson, like he wasn't in for that first one. They subbed him in at the free throw. So that does change things. Plus, you got to at least give them a little bit of credit to maybe pick up on what you just ran.
Yeah, I think that one can go both ways. If they run it again, it's like, how do the Knicks not stop this? I just think Joe being like perplexed by it not working is frustrating and speaks to, again, I mean, Joe's just like, well, we shoot a lot of threes and sooner or later they're going to go in. Well, we ran this play before and it worked. It's like, well, yeah, teams adjust. I don't necessarily hate running the same play a second time. You got to stop it. Prove to me you can stop it. It worked. Tatum's got a head of steam. Go ahead and prove that you can stop it. And he should have called a timeout once it got blown up.
Right. And it was pretty clear that it was going to be blown up.
I don't necessarily I don't necessarily hate running the same play again. Okay. I don't like being incredulous about it after the game. Like, well, it worked before. Of course it was going to work. No. Teams adjust. Teams make switches. Teams are ready for things once you show it to them one time. It's why you can't just, I was guilty of this in Madden, Keefe. Yeah. You can't run the same play over and over again. It's just not, sooner or later.
All verts. All verticals.
Somebody's catching on sooner or later, so I am not incredulous when it doesn't work out. That's more what bothered me, is just Missoula not understanding how it didn't work.
No, and I think overall, Tatum and Brown are more to blame, but then when you listen to those guys post-game versus listening to Missoula post-game, it's easier to get more aggravated with Missoula.
Well, for sure.
He just blames everybody else.
Well, Tatum had, I guess, an excuse for not talking, but Tatum didn't talk.
True. Okay.
You know, so, I mean, I know the arena got evacuated.
It did.
Reporters were allowed back in. I'm assuming players were allowed back in. I'm sure he could have talked if he wanted to talk. He didn't.
Taillights.
But he has an excuse to not talk. So we didn't hear from Tatum after the game. But no, Missoula was ridiculously frustrating after the game.
And because it's coming off of game one, where he also came off as pretty defensive and like not answering questions and just being like, I'm the smartest guy in the world and all that. And like, oh, you're just going to make shots. All right, well, now the same game plays out. You do nothing. You just stand there as a 20-point lead slips away again. And this one, you had your fingerprints on even more, just the way the game ended with the back and forth there at the end, and takes no accountability on it. So it's like you want to blame him even more than he probably deserves, because it still comes down to the players. But, I mean, in a game like this, when you cough up 20-point leads in consecutive games, there's obviously plenty of blame to go around. Nobody's playing well.
No.
There's really nobody you can look to yesterday where you're like, all right, that guy had it.
No. In game one, at least, right. You were like,
game one, Drew Holiday
had a good game. Right. Last night, I don't feel like anybody.
I don't think anybody had a good game.
Played particularly well.
No.
So Tatum would be at the top of my list, but let's stick with Missoula here for a moment. We can get to Tatum coming up with all your phone calls again. 617-779-7937. Let's hear the exchange you're referencing there, Keefe, on the final sequence at the end of the game. It's a back and forth with our guy, B-Rob.
B-Rob's right in it.
I was yelling at my TV because B-Rob and him got into it, yesterday?
After game one, yeah.
I'm sorry, or the day in between the games. Yeah, on Tuesday. Going into game two yesterday, they kind of got into it a little bit.
The duality of man.
Oh, the duality of man. And, it's so weird. The Knicks hit their threes and we missed ours. Boy, that's an interesting concept.
Novel concept.
Yeah, like, why? Just make some. Just make some threes. That's all we got to do, which, by the way, they did not, again, last night in game two.
Consistent. They're 25 of 100.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's a good ratio.
Uh-huh.
But I was yelling at my TV. I'm like, B-Rob, get him. Get him, B-Rob. Here's the exchange.
Yep.
Joe, what was the thought process with not calling timeout there with 12 seconds left?
I had one left, got a good look on the exact same play 20 seconds earlier, tried to execute the exact same thing. They did a better job of their lower pickup point, and we weren't able to get the advantage that we had on the last Tatum dunk. So good full court setting. They subbed out Towns, weren't able to sub out Brunson, had action there, and we just didn't execute.
Okay, so stop.
Embarrassing.
So hang on. There's more, but
it's pathetic.
That part jumps out to you in the exchange. Okay,
yes.
Interesting. So you don't.
No. I don't think it's anything like B-Rob v Missoula 2.0. I think it's comical to me that he admits it.
He's like, we ran the same play and for some reason it didn't work.
Rather than be like, we ran the same play.
I'm off the hook because we ran the same play.
We got a good look before.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you're always going to get a good look. Like, that's crazy to me. You're an NBA coach.
Okay.
There's an NBA coach on the other side with 5 NBA players, and you run the same thing. It's not like you ran it. Oh, we ran it in the regular season. We ran it against them, or even game one. No. You ran it 12 seconds earlier. And he even says, like, well, we got a good look on that. You didn't get a good look on this one. The Tatum one
well, hang on.
he scored in like 2 seconds.
Well, yeah. Full head of steam. Blew
it
past
looked like a
Robinson.
fast break point.
It did. I think he thinks they got another good look. Listen to this. There's more to this exchange, which this is
was
what
not a good look.
This is what jumped out to me. So let's hear the second half of that exchange because B-Rob's a little emboldened now. He's not
Bulldog.
He's not going to get Bulldog B-Rob.
I think the B stands for Bulldog.
He is not going to get boxed around by Missoula, so he follows up.
And then but how much is the time consideration a factor there with 12, giving yourself a couple cracks at it? If you advance the ball there potentially.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So you don't know that at the point of JT was driving left. Thought he had a good look, saw it at an angle, didn't shoot it, and ran out of time.
Ran out of time. That's all that happened.
Had a good look, didn't shoot it. So once again, burying the player.
So
Missoula loves to bury the player.
That's what jumped out to me. Now this is the same guy who in game 1 against Orlando is yelling at Tatum to get up.
Right.
Now, on the final sequence of a loss to go down 0-2 at home against New York, he says, I don't know, I thought Tatum had an angle and he didn't shoot it.
Yeah.
Like, that is burying.
No, after game 1, it was like, we need to make them.
Yeah.
They made them, we didn't make them. So just putting it on the guys that need to make shots. Nothing about him. Nothing about adjustments.
Missoula
nothing about the call. You called the same thing twice.
Missoula might as well say, yeah, I called a good play. Tatum's got to do something with it. Like, I mean, you might as well just say that. That's what you're saying.
That's basically what he said. No, all I can think of is the guy from I Think You Should Leave when he was like, oh, my God, he admitted. And he's like, we ran the same play twice. We got a good look before. Thought we could run it again. It's like, no.
He loves his mother-in-law.
Yeah. You have to marry your mother-in-law. No, he could have stopped it. You could have had the best of both worlds, I guess. You could have said, hey, maybe we will catch the Knicks with their pants down. Maybe we will score right away. We like that play. We put the ball in Tatum's hands.
But if it's not there.
It's not there. We have all this time.
Timeout.
Then actually run something. Like, do you not have a play, like another play to run?
No.
Maybe not.
It doesn't seem that way.
Honestly, maybe not.
I mean, I've watched them now for a couple of games against the Knicks. Does not seem like they have a lot of end-of-game plays. No.
Celtics had a chance to tie it in overtime. In game 1.
Yep.
Didn't get a shot off.
Nope.
Had a chance to win it in the end of game 2. Didn't get a shot off.
No.
That's rough. That's a rough go.
It's not ideal.
But Missoula's not putting any of that on him.
No.
Which is infuriating.
Why do you think that is? You think is it like an ego thing? Or do you think he's actually concerned about his future?
He is a maniac. So it is hard to kind of get inside his head and figure out what he's doing. But I have a very harrowing stat, if I'm using that word correctly.
Oh, yeah. Shout out Harrow.
So, yeah, my guy. So this is, if I'm Missoula, we talked about how, yelling at Jason Tatum, maybe not the best thing for job security.
No, he hasn't heeded that advice because now after game 2, he's
burying the guys.
He actually had a good look.
You know what's a wild stat?
What's that?
So out of the 5 head coaches that won the NBA Finals prior to Missoula, right? So Missoula won it last year. So the 5 previous, 5 different teams, right? Because we were talking about, hey, nobody's won back-to-back. So 5 different head coaches have won the NBA title prior to Missoula. Do you know how many are still with their team?
Okay, so Kerr definitely.
That's it.
That's the whole list?
Yeah.
Nick Nurse is gone.
Nick Nurse gone. Frank Vogel
gone. You
Gone.
don't even count that one.
Mike
Frank
Budenholzer.
Budenholzer gone.
Michael Malone.
And Malone.
Yeah. So you win a title, you're like, oh, that's job security. It is not.
Okay, well, and if you remember, Missoula was asked about this in real time when Malone got fired, and his answer was something like, well, this is like what we signed up for. And and we talked about that at the time. We're like, you could not win a title 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily think one at the time. The way this is going, I don't rule anything out. I wouldn't call it likely, but I don't rule anything out.
But the formula to that, too, is, and you heard it in the intro, the stat, was it Harlan that had it?
Yeah.
Like, not only have teams not won back-to-back,
They don't get out of the second round.
they lose in the second round, which also speeds up the process of those guys getting canned. And then it's, how does your best player feel about you? I would say that's the only guy that could probably save you. If Jokic really wanted Malone, or if Giannis really wanted Budenholzer, I think those guys would still be there. They did not.
No, well, when you start to lose, and I don't mean like have a losing record, but start to not win a championship and people start looking at you.
Especially when you're the heavy favorite. They were minus 800 to win the series.
Yeah.
At the beginning of this whole thing.
They're still minus one. I heard Scheim say that this morning. When I looked it up last night.
I thought you said they were plus.
They were briefly plus 110. That's changed this morning. They're minus
I put too much money on
They're
it.
minus 120 is what I heard Scheim say that, and I was like, let me fact check.
I put a PS5 on it.
He's right. Last night the Celtics were plus money. Some places. I'm not saying everywhere, but they were plus money last night for the series. Buying opportunity?
Or sucker's bet. No, buying opportunity. Well, because if they win on Saturday, it's going to drastically.
It's going to skyrocket.
Yeah.
I heard Curtis say this as well. If you swap Thibodeau and Missoula, I actually got asked about this the other day on TV, Keefe. Brag.
Oh, wow.
Going into the series.
Must be nice.
Thank you. And I was asked who was the better coach in the series going in. I'm like, Missoula, easy. Tib stinks.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure that's been the case through the first 2 games. I still think Missoula's a better coach than Thibodeau. If you swap the coaches, are the Celtics up 2-0?
No. I don't know about that. I don't know if you swap the coach. And I'm down on Missoula, trust me, right now. No, I'm very down on Missoula.
If they're still down 0-2 with a different coach, then it's about Tatum, and it's about Brown, and it's about the players.
Well, it's tough because if Thibodeau's actually the coach here, but Brad Stevens is still running the show, like from the front office, are they taking as many threes still? Or is Thibodeau being like, hey, we're not doing that? Because Thibodeau, you would think, would have a better defensive team in New York, and he doesn't. So he's sort of changed his ways a little bit, welcoming in Karl-Anthony Towns and kind of playing that way. But if, let's say they switch the coaches, but it was the same regular season, 53s a game, that kind of thing, I don't think Thibodeau's going to make them hit all their shots. Yep. I mean, the big story is they are just missing at an alarming rate.
And the crowd was on them. The crowd was on them early when they were missing last night. Yeah. They looked tight.
Yeah.
They looked tight early on.
Hard watch
on threes.
Brick City's a hard watch.
Crowd's on them. They know it. We've been talking about it for 48 hours straight going into the game, and it's like they can't keep launching threes. And they played like it was in their head. They looked like it was in their head last night. So, look, I think if Thibodeau were here, they'd still be down 0-2. I blame the players. I'm not saying Missoula's blameless. The head coach gets some blame. I didn't like the end of game. I really hate listening to him after the game, after some of these losses. But that's more of a like a taste and aesthetic. That's not necessarily how he's coaching the game. I look at the players. They gotta, in Missoula's words, make some shots. Yeah. And that does not just mean launch away from three. That means, all right, you were trying to play some bully ball and go to the hoop last night. You got to hit those. Those I'm a little more with Missoula on. 617-779-7937. Jones and Keefe live in the Ford Clubhouse Fenway studio, taking you up to the Red